Kill Gas Town! Convoy's on its way!
Welcome to the Mad Max Minute. Please do not crowd the elevator as we discuss Mad Max Fury Road 1 minute at a time. I'm Rick.
And I'm Julia.
And today we're talking about minute 11, which begins with the war rig leaving the Citadel, and it ends with the caravan on the quiet road to Gastown. We sent our guests for today around the corner to get us a couple of meatball sandwiches. I hope they remembered to get me two. 2, Utah.
2.
So hungry, we should have gotten you 3.
Should have gotten 3. I could eat the ass end out of a rhino. I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
It's Murren, Kennedy, and Jessa Lowe from the Point Break Minute.
Yes, indeed.
Welcome back.
It is us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us back.
Thank you, Jessa. I don't know. Yeah, well, we also luckily got some lemonade to go with those meatball subs because I'm thirsty after that last minute talking about all that water.
Unfortunately for us, the only water we see today is the muddy puddles that these wretched are crawling through. And knowing just how filthy these people are, that water is not going to remain potable for long, I don't think.
Yeah.
Unless they have a nice filter system, which I doubt.
You're right. There's going to come a point where this water is no longer clean enough to drink, and then another point where the water is dirty enough that it will actively make them sick. But they don't know where that line is. Mm-hmm. These people have no clue where that line is. And I suspect also they don't care. If it is liquid, they will drink it, even if it is mud by that point.
I might even suspect that like dirty water would improve their health, even if it's dirty, because at least they wouldn't be dehydrated anymore, even though they might be infected by something. At least they have some fluid in their system.
Right. And who knows what minerals and really just minerals would then be in that water.
And maybe there'd be some parasite that could be their way out of this wretched earth.
Could be. Like, maybe I'll die, but at least I'll die with my thirst quenched.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a sad, dare I say, wretched way to live.
Yes.
Julia, you've said in the past that you never want to find yourself in this sort of situation. If the apocalypse ever happens...
Oh, I want to go in the first round.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd rather live right next to the nuclear plant. I'd rather live right next to the military base that's going to get hit. End it quick. I do not want to live in the post-apocalypse.
I've got a leather jacket and a motorcycle, and I could probably find myself a nice heavy lead pipe to bash people with. I mean, I could go out on the highways and do that.
Okay, even more reason for me to get out early, because if I was your pretty girl sitting on the back of your motorcycle, I'm going to die soon anyways to a thing to my forehead.
Well, obviously, I'd find you a crossbow. You could sit up on the back of the motorcycle and shoot guys as we ride by.
Okay, that still wouldn't protect me from the feral child, because I'm not going to shoot a feral child in the face with a crossbow.
I would.
Jessa, you would shoot the feral child?
If that child was after me and going to kill me, hell yeah, or heck yeah, I would.
You don't have much sympathy for like children. You don't
if
see
it was
like
going to kill, if it was
innocent
me or
child's
them,
face.
That child's not innocent.
Well, it sounds like you're ready for the apocalypse. Then you're mentally prepared. I was going to say that this place, if it wasn't for the dire living condition, this would be a pretty cool place to live.
Would it?
Yeah, I think so. I just like the architecture of it. You know, all the plateaus and rock outcroppings with like bridges going back and forth, and there is plenty of water if I had access to it. You know,
if you had access.
Yeah, if I was. So I guess I'm saying I would like to live here if I could be.
Immortan Joe.
Well, I don't know if I'd say that either. He looks like doesn't have a great life himself. You know, with all that, like he has to wear a oxygen mask of some kind, and
his whole
his
world
skin
is
looks
pain,
terrible.
Murren.
This whole world is pain. I remember I was going to say you said his name is Joe Moore.
Yep.
Or it was. So is it like I'm more
Joe?
Tan Joe? But he's not more tan because he's actually very pale.
Maybe he is more tan than he was.
Maybe that's why. But he just like does a powder on his face like 18th century.
This is just tan version. This is Tan Joe.
Well, as I alluded to on Monday's Minute, his nickname started out as one guy in a crowd shouting, "He's immortal," and then the dude next to him taking immortal and just changing it to Immortan. So instead of everybody shouting Immortal Joe, they just call him Immortan Joe because I guess it's easier to chant. Okay, if you're shouting Immortan Joe versus Immortal Joe, I guess that Immortan and then a J, Immortal J.
I don't know, they chant the same way for me in my head.
The AL sound feels more clumsy going to a J right after it than the AN sound. And that's just how I'm hearing it.
The L consonant could just last forever, whereas the N really signifies the ending.
But he is immortal, so... Okay, so how old is he? Do we know how old he is?
A million.
A million. 5.
Yeah, just 5. Sorry.
It doesn't specifically say how old Joe is supposed to be, but if we go by the age of the actor...
He's like 60 or something?
So I would say 70s.
Yeah.
He is in his 70s.
Okay.
That seems reasonable.
What started the nickname? Do we know from like Apocrypha? Was it like because he was,
he's
fighting
immortal,
someone
right?
and then he like fought off some guys and looked like he was, or he like survived some wound or something like that?
He's immortal.
It was the fighting and the surviving part. Like I mentioned on Monday, he almost single-handedly took the Citadel, and that feat alone happened out of the sight of everybody else. So people didn't get to see specifically just what Joe did to take that place. They just heard a bunch of fighting and they saw a bunch of their own dudes dying, and then all of a sudden, I think it was 3 days worth of fighting, and then on day 3 Joe just appeared.
Oh, really? On day
conquered
3?
the place. I know, another biblical thing.
Yeah.
The rock was pulled back.
And then everyone was like, hey, I guess he's immortal now.
Yeah. So it becomes about the stories about it. Like the people make up their own stories and the legends, pass on and change, sort of Name of the Wind style. Like it's about the legend. And that's how he has control.
You do something that impressive and you can lord that over people for quite a while if you're handy with it.
For sure.
Yeah.
So now that all the water theatricality is done, Furiosa puts the war rig into drive and starts pulling out, and it makes me wonder if the release of the water is something that they do every time a war rig is about to depart.
It does seem a bit ceremonial.
What he was saying before the water was released, in a minute that we didn't talk about, but it does seem like, I salute my Imperator Furiosa, and I salute the war boys, and it seems like this big grand thing, like we get gasoline from Gastown. Gasoline. Which I love that. So yeah, it makes a big deal out of it. Make it seem like a really cool thing. Whereas they could just it's not just like being a freight driver, driving in the middle of the night, trying to get it done as quickly as possible.
Also,
no muss, no fuss.
One thing we learned in prep for this minute is that Bullet Boy, or whatever his name is.
The Bullet Farmer?
Thank you. And
the People Eater?
Yes, thank you. Are brothers of Immortan Joe.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we learned?
Yes.
So why is he putting on this big show that he's going to go get gasoline?
They might not be friendly brothers.
Well, aren't they?
They're maybe tentatively.
They help him later.
This is way beyond our purview, Jessa. We gotta watch ourselves here.
Okay.
But yeah, we did learn that. But so yeah, I guess they talk about Gastown. Gastown, I guess, kind of gives us permission to talk about.
But like, why put on this
People Eater.
huge show of like, if like he's just like going if he's just like going to his brother's house for a cup of sugar kind of thing.
Hey, please, sir, can I borrow some gasoline? A cup of gasoline for my cake? Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's probably more just population control to make it like, if they think it's really hard to get gasoline, then it'll seem more impressive.
True. I don't know. Is this something that you guys have thought about or talked about?
I just assume that it's for the masses.
Yeah.
To put on a show of power, to show his people that they have the strength and the upper hand when it comes to the other 2 towns in the area.
Yeah.
If there are these 3 brothers in these 3 towns, you want to be the little piggy in the brick house, not the little piggy in the straw house. So you want to make sure that you are the biggest and the baddest. And whether that's true or not doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I think what Joe is trying to do here, because at the end of the day, what Furiosa is doing, if you want to talk about if this was an amusement park, Furiosa is going from the supply warehouse and she's taking the little tuk-tuk car and she's driving a box full of frozen burgers out to the food stand. And she's taking a bag full of stuffed animals to the Midway games. Like, this is an incredibly mundane and routine thing that she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But Joe blows it way out into this nigh unto spiritual experience.
Mm-hmm.
Behold my water flowing forth from the rock. Don't become addicted to water because I'm your redeemer and I'm going to lift you out of the dust. And it's like, okay, just like Jessa said, yeah, you're going next door to get some gasoline from your bro. Like, it's not that exciting, but because Joe has such a cult of personality built up around himself and the other lieutenants that he has controlling Gastown and the Bullet Farm, like, he needs to be over the top theatrical about it just to make sure that the stories about him stay impressive.
And to play a little bit of devil's advocate here.
Speaking of Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. We're looking at this from the perspective of 4 people who have plentiful access to food and water and shelter and oxygen and everything that we need to live comfortable, healthy lives. These people do not.
Mm-hmm.
Finding food and finding water is a rarity. It is something special. And yes, Immortan Joe has found himself a spot where those things are much more possible and more plentiful than elsewhere. It's still really, really special. So the very fact that they have the ability to put together this gigantic truck full of all these resources that give life, that is a rarity on this planet, this post-apocalyptic planet, and it is pretty special.
As well as, I mean, there are marauders out there. So, I mean, being the Imperator who does these trips back and forth, like, it's dangerous. So I guess it's not just like driving a truck down Route 66. I'm sure there are dangers to that as well.
Yeah. The title of Imperator given to Furiosa is something given after victories.
Mm-hmm.
So she has already proven herself capable. And you don't earn titles from a successful mission that was easy.
Yeah.
You earn titles from successful missions that were hard.
Yeah. And the fact that he's calling out to everybody, hey, this errand is being run by one of my Imperators with a full retinue of war boys backing her up. She's got 2 support cars, 2 support motorcycles, a ton of war boys sitting on top of the rig itself.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anybody lying in wait to ambush just outside the Citadel and they hear Joe talking about all of these people that are going to be there helping out the rig,
Maybe they'll
all
think
right,
twice.
Yeah, maybe don't ambush the convoy right outside the Citadel, for one thing.
Yeah.
Also, I just wanted to say to save you from the tweets, Charlize Theron, also a devil's advocate.
What? Seriously?
Yeah, she's a devil's advocate. She plays Keanu Reeves' wife or girlfriend, yeah.
Cool.
Oh, nice.
That's their connection.
Everything's connected, just like Niall and John always say.
Yeah, so if you're playing a 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game, you know, that's a way to jump between those two. You can get from Mad Max Fury Road to Point Break.
I think the end point of our discussion is that Immortan Joe is not dumb. He knows what he's doing. He has a strategy here that is probably multi-tiered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got a handle on what's going on.
Cool guy.
Yeah.
So it is finally time for the rig to leave, and as they pull out to leave, it's nice that the Wretched have formed a very orderly little avenue. They don't even have war boys out there doing crowd control, so these people know exactly where to stand to not get run over, and I'm sure 1 or 2 people have gotten run over in the past, and that's probably where they're like, okay, let's not get right up against the road. But as they leave, now it's time also to raise the elevator that the tanker came down on.
I have a quick question about the path that they have formed.
Mm-hmm.
That path is built upon the history of people getting run over. So you stay back. The Furiosa that we get to know in this movie, do you think she's one of the drivers who has previously run people over who are in her way?
Honestly,
through that crowd?
In this post-apocalyptic situation, you're going to run people over. You know, it's going to happen. Folks are going to run out into the road. They're going to get in your way. Not any fault of your own. They're just going to run out there. And you know what? If they get hit, they get hit.
And I'm sure the Wretched aren't all just like saints. I'm sure they've all done horrid things.
Jessa, there are good people on both sides. I also want I learned this watching we learned this watching the movie Near Dark when we were sort of going through our Catherine Bigelow other movies and apparently it's very difficult to stop a rig like that, like a big rig truck.
Wait, what do you mean we learned this?
From
As in, like...
No, there's a character in Near Dark that's a truck driver, and they give like a lesson on how to drive a truck. Oh. You don't remember this because you don't remember things, but I do. Because my mind is a steel trap.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
So the big rig like this is a very big rig. It's a war rig. Probably much heavier than a regular truck that you would see just driving in our world, because it has all sorts of little
like
add-ons and guns and a huge engine. It's very hard to stop this type of truck because it's heavy, and you need to put on the brakes of the trailer first, and then you put on the brakes of the cab.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Because if you put on the brakes of the cab first, then the trailer will run the cab over.
Yeah.
So if you see someone running out in front of you, you can't just stop that truck. It takes a good 10 seconds.
Was it Near Dark?
That was in Near Dark.
There was like a scene where they were like, "This is how you drive a truck."
Yeah, exactly. And he talks about how it has 13 gears. And then it comes back when they... Anyway, watch Near Dark for that. They run over Bill Paxton. And anyway...
Yeah, and if you want other good examples of what a just regular stock truck can do, I would point you at Mad Max from 1979 and Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior. Both feature very prominently the destructive power of just a regular 18-wheeler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the one in Road Warrior was really not that big.
It was barely functioning as is.
Yeah.
I guess you could also say the train in Beyond Thunderdome was another good example, but that was a whole different type of thing. That was a steam engine, and, we're done talking about Thunderdome. We've gone beyond Thunderdome at this point.
You'll never go back. You're forever beyond. We're on Fury Road now.
So one of the big guys up on the platform, he pulls this giant lever and the war pups start banging out a tune.
I love it.
The wretched that are on the big hamster wheel start walking, and that's the human power to raise the elevator. And we get to see a whole crowd of people rushing this elevator to try and get onto it. And it's here that we actually get a deleted scene. It was once here. It's no longer there. You can watch it on YouTube or on the Blu-ray as far as the special features are concerned there.
Oh, I forgot that it was a deleted scene.
Yep.
When I referenced it on Monday.
So the way it works is one of these tall guards with the big hockey stick looking things. He's approached by a woman who holds up her baby, and she begs for the guard to take it and raise it to be a war boy. So the guard takes the baby, it's wrapped in a rag, pulls the rag off, and he's inspecting this kid, and it's a rubber baby. So it's nice to see the infant from American Sniper getting work in other things. But he's holding this rubber baby, and he's like, oh, it's got lumps, it'll be dead inside of a week. And he tosses it back to the woman. So she catches the baby, good for her, and then... she realizes that, okay, this kid's not going up the elevator. And then she hands the baby off to the person next to her, pulls out one of her breasts and says, then take me, I'm a milking mother, or something like that. And the guard's like, sure, come on, get up here. And so he grabs her and brings her up onto the elevator. I mean, she's got the radiation burns or something like that on her neck. She's not looking great.
The tumors.
Oh, so that's what you're referencing before, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was referencing before.
But she produces milk, and so he pulls her up on the elevator, and in this wide shot that we see of the elevator going up, you can see the guards, they're going around throwing people off, but there's one person standing in the middle of the elevator, and I think that's the woman from the deleted scene. It's a remnant.
Rick has such good eyes.
Made it through.
Elf eyes.
It's very last helicopter out of Saigon feeling to it.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. That's the feel.
That's the feel.
It kind of reminds me of like a contraption you would see at like a sort of avant-garde fashion show. Like a big platform with chains on it that like RuPaul would stand on or something.
Sure.
I only kind of know what I'm talking about, but that's what popped in my head.
Yeah. It's like you who've been to many avant-garde fashion shows.
Been to so many. I'm such a fashionista.
Such a fashionista.
It's almost so outrageous that if you had maybe going back to the movie Zoolander, if Mugatu had done, instead of derelict, if he had done a post-apocalyptic line, he would have had a giant industrial-looking elevator raising the models up and down sort of thing.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, it's funny. That just reminded me. I'm in a play right now and it's post-apocalyptic. It's like after a nuclear fallout. And there's one scene where these two characters, like in this guy's apartment, kind of like they've boarded it up and everything, and they find some clothes, and then he puts on this big leather jacket, and he's like, "Oh, I'm post-apocalyptic chic now." And he does like a little runway like imitation. So that's whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you get through the days, those post-apocalyptic days.
It's the little things, especially when it comes to jackets and cars, you latch onto stuff. Mm-hmm. Especially if your name is Max.
Mm-hmm. It becomes your identity.
And when you latch onto people, they die.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately for him. With the elevator done and over with, we cut back up to Joe. He walks away from his balcony there, and Rictus Erectus calls out to either one of the other Imperators or just someone else that's in the general vicinity. He calls out, "Signal Gas Town, convoy's on its way." And this is the first thing that we hear from Rictus Erectus, so it's good a time as any to get to know him. So Rictus Erectus was played by Nathan Jones. IMDb lists his best known performances as this one from Fury Road. Also, he played a character named TK in 2005's The Protector. He played Peter in 2007's The Condemned, and in 2011's Conan the Barbarian, he played a character named Akun. So Nathan Jones was born August 21st, 1969 in Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia. He ran into a bit of legal trouble as a young man after being convicted of 8 counts of armed robbery, and at 18 was sent to the Bago Road jail, where he stayed for the next 7 years.
Whoa.
While he was in prison, he learned about powerlifting, and when he was released at 25, he started lifting competitively, eventually becoming Australia's national powerlifting champion.
He's a big guy.
Huge guy. His nicknames include Mega Man and the Colossus of Bago Road. He is 6'11" and over 350 pounds.
Jesus.
Holy cow.
6'11".
He's really just a
6'11".
sprite of a man.
Yeah. He's a big man.
Yeah.
Sounds like as if he was 30 years older, he would have been a great humongous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He began acting in 1996, but primarily had an extensive professional wrestling career between 2001 and 2008. He never rose to huge prominence, but it was extensive. He went around internationally doing this professional wrestling thing. But he was sideswiped by a cement truck in Bangkok, Thailand, and he got nerve damage in his arm. And that pretty much put an end to the professional wrestling. It just didn't quite work out for him after that. But he continued acting in films all through the aughts and into, the teens, the decade we're in right now. And he even has productions that are in post-production right now.
Wow.
One role that stands out to me in his IMDb listing, he was a small character in the movie Asterix at the Olympic Games, which was a live-action French movie starring the Gallic warrior Asterix goes to Rome and competes in a series of games. I think some reviews have called it the worst French film ever made.
Oh.
There's that Asterix series, or Asterix, as you're pronouncing it very fancily there. I don't know, but that's Gerard Depardieu is in all those, right?
Probably. I actually haven't seen any of them.
I haven't either. I learned about them at some point, and it's just I was kind of amazed that I'd never heard about them before. But it's just, there was a lot of them.
But I bring it up because in the movie he plays a gladiatorial combatant named Humongous.
Oh, nice.
Spelled exactly how it was in Road Warrior. So that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Awesome. And he has a lovely little baby necklace.
Yes, he does.
So Rictus has a lot of baby-related things in his outfit. I think as a way of referencing his simpleness, because he is a giant child. That's his gimmick. Mm-hmm. He's a 6'11", 9-year-old, so to speak.
And he's his daddy's baby boy.
Mm-hmm.
He is. And then there's the contrast of the very small man who is the more intelligent, thoughtful brother. Isn't it?
I think when they named Corpus, they called him Corpus Colossus to be a bit ironic because he wasn't 6'11". But Joe has an interesting way of naming his children.
He names people like he's 6. and is like, I'm gonna need my Rocket Man. Or like,
it's interesting. Like we'll get to this guy in a second, but it's interesting how, especially with the War Boys, but I think with people in general, especially Immortan Joe's family and like his following, they're seen as more as machines than people. Mm-hmm. And
of course.
I think naming them kind of like he would a car almost. Like what I think it'll be funny if it's called, the blue blur or something. I don't know. I'm just making stuff with it.
Yeah, they're named kind of like horses.
Yeah, like a horse. That's a good way to put it.
Let's throw together a couple of random words, and now it's a person.
But I was going to bring up that's the organic mechanic shows up here, and he kind of has some. Lets you see a little bit more about he's a mechanic. He's not a surgeon.
He comes up.
The next one.
Yeah, we're gonna see him on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll just I'll save that for later.
Right, because in the meantime, we are down on the road and we are watching the caravan drive away. We get to see in this moment and then another moment later on in this minute how Gastown and the Citadel communicate with each other. They're using a mirror to flash out a message. Now, we're used to seeing Morse code when it comes to blips and bleeps and all that other stuff. Now, considering that Immortan Joe was once Colonel Joe, he's probably using the international Morse code that we're all familiar with. And so I was looking at this blinking light coming from Gastown, and I wish I could have a steady look at what these blinks are doing, but where the camera is moving, we're not at the proper angle to be seeing exactly the pattern that they're using, which is really unfortunate because I would like to know what Gastown is saying. If they're giving some sort of affirmative response to, hey, the caravan's on its way, and they're saying, cool, I hope it has mother's milk, or something like that.
Are they bringing anything to Gastown? Water or other supplies?
Inside the war rig, they have aquacola, mother's milk, and produce. And those are the three things that are inside this tanker.
Oh.
What's aquacola?
Oh, it's just water.
Water.
It's just water.
It's just the fancy term for it.
Exactly.
To make it sound cooler.
So as they're driving along, we cut inside the war rig and we just see Furiosa and she's holding on to her steering wheel, and we get to see a good exempling of that artisan scroll work again. And then we do a close-up on Furiosa and she's scanning the wasteland. And I have to think, if this were just any other day but today, this would be the whole movie.
Yeah.
Them driving along this quiet road, her looking out at things, it would be an errand and nothing more.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about the war boys who are on this trip, who don't know that it's anything other than a normal trip to Gastown. They probably think this is a pretty cushy assignment. Mm-hmm. They get to get out and on the road, and they expect it to be uneventful. They get to go see another place and meet different people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the war boy that's sitting out on that lead vehicle, he's just sitting there. His hands are in his lap. He's not even manning the gun.
No, he looks pretty relaxed, having a good time.
Yeah, out there in the sun.
They do set the tone, though, that something's going to go amiss with the thing that's really quiet in the background while she's scanning the horizon. And it just gives you the thing of ooh, all is not right here. I don't know. To me, it does.
Oh, definitely. It's probably a good thing that we don't have background music to our lives, because then we would always be paranoid.
Yeah.
Oh no, the music changed. What's happening?
Yeah.
What's wrong here?
Well, maybe it could give you a little warning, though. There's someone, it's like a spidey sense kind of thing. When it turns, the music becomes ominous. You're I got to be on my lookout. But then when it's a smooth jazz, kind of snapping and bopping along, you're I know I'm good.
Yeah, it's like when you're out there, and I'll use Skyrim as a good example because Skyrim is available on literally anything these days. You get little notifications up in the corner of your screen as you're playing. It says you cannot save when enemies are nearby, and you see nothing, and you're where are the enemies? Or you walk outside and suddenly the dragon attack music starts up and there are no dragons anywhere, and you're well, this is unsettling.
Yeah. What's happening?
The final shot of this minute, we see the convoy driving along, and we can see the signal light coming from the Citadel, and the camera's not moving. So for once, I can actually look at these flashes. And it's technically broken up between today and Friday's minute, but it's a solid shot, lasts about 6.5 seconds. And in that time, I see 7 flashes. We get a set of 2, a set of 3, and then another set of 2. The first set, I think you could count as long flashes, which in the International Morse code would be an M. And then the second set of 3 is pretty quick, so I think that's an S. And then the final 2 are also pretty quick, making it an I. So if I was clever, I could probably think, okay, what kind of phrases are commonly used in Morse code that involve an M, an S, and an I in fairly close proximity to each other? And I'm not clever, so I wasn't able to think of anything that was passable in any way.
An S and an I.
Well, the M and the S could be the ending 2 letters of a word, and then the I could be the start of the next. I think that makes more sense than breaking up the M being the last letter of a word and SI being the first letters.
As in a word that ends with MS, and then the I could be the beginning of the word incoming.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I can't think of anything.
No.
Yeah, it's a real head scratcher.
Tim's coming.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tim's incoming.
We'll leave that as a riddle for all of our listeners to consider over the next couple of days, because that brings us to the end of today's minute. So we're going to check in with Max on Friday and see how he's doing. Spoiler alert, he's had better days. And then it's back out onto the open road with Furiosa, where things are about to take a bit of a turn.
Oh, God.
The Mad Max Minute podcast is a fan project by Rick and Julia Ingham.
The Mad Max franchise was created by George Miller and Byron Kennedy, is presented by Kennedy Miller Mitchell Productions, and distributed by Warner Brothers.
Mad Max Minute is produced and edited by Rick Ingham. Our opening music is Verdi's Dies Irae by Daniel Bautista of danielbautista.com.
Our home on the internet is madmaxminute.com. You can follow us on Twitter at madmaxminute, like us on Facebook by searching for Mad Max Minute, and join our Facebook listener group, Mad Max Minute Beyond Microphone.
If you'd like to support the podcast, visit madmaxminute.com, where you can see what's in our TeePublic store, join our Patreon, or even donate to the show to help us keep the tanks full.
Thank you for joining us for Minute 11 of Fury Road. We'll see you next time.